Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Today we are doing our FSA Packet 3, and we are completing problems 21 through 30. So let's go ahead and get started. A cube with an edge length of x inches has a volume of 125 cubic inches. What is the length of the edge? Well, when we have a cube, all side lengths are the same, and base times width times height equals our volume. So, if they're all the same, then x times x times x, or x cubed, equals 125. So all we need to do is do our cube root of 125. So what times itself 3 times, what times what times what equals 125. Remember, it all has to be the same number. So here, honestly, it's either you memorized your cube roots through like 12, or you have to guess here, and then just multiply 3 numbers that are all the same times itself until you get to 125. Luckily, I know my cube roots. So it is 5, because 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 gives you 125. So our length of the edge is 5 inches, because we're dealing with inches here. So 5 inches. Okay. Which of the following, I hate when it does that. Which of the following could be side lengths of a right triangle? Remember, with a right triangle, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 3 squared gives us 9. 8 squared gives us 64. 10 squared gives us 100. 15 squared gives us 225. And 17 squared gives us 289. So we need to figure out which 3 numbers work here. We want 2 that can be added together to get the third one. So we want this plus this to equal this. So 9 plus 64 does not give us anything else here. 9 plus any of these is not going to give us any of the others. So this is actually, we're going to take it off the table completely. Okay, so let's add here 64 plus 100. That gives us 164. That's not 225 or 289. 100 plus 225 gives us 325, so that again is too big. So 100 is out. So now we're looking at the last 3 numbers. Let's add them up and multiply them. Add them up and make sure that they make sense, right? So 64 plus 225, we want to see if that equals 289. And you can use your calculator in this part of the FSA packet, I believe. Even if you couldn't, you could simply add them together right here, or put 64 underneath 225 and add them together. I can't remember if this one was on the, you could use your calculator or you could not. Okay, so it equals 289, so that worked out. So our 3 numbers will be B, 8, D, 15, and E, 17. Okay. All right, 23, solve for B. Again, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so here's our A, here's our B, and here's our C. Your C length is always going to be your hypotenuse, which is that slanted side. Okay, so A squared is 28 squared. Sorry, I obviously cannot write today. And then 53 squared would be our hypotenuse, or our C. So now we can use our calculator. 28 squared, or 28 times 28, gives us 784, plus B squared equals 53 squared, which is 2,809. Okay, now to solve for B squared, we want to subtract 784 from both sides. And we are left with B squared equals 2,809 minus 784. That gives us 2,025. Now we are not done yet because that is just equal to b squared. To find just b by itself, you have to take the square root of that number. And when we press our square root button, it gives us 45. So b is equal to 45. So our length for b is 45 inches. Okay, it says Drew is riding his bike to his friend Caden's house. Drew's house is located at -8, 6, and Caden's house is located at 3, -2. How many units is Drew's house from Caden's house? Round to the nearest tenth. Your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. Well, if we look here, this is simply a right triangle. And if we are trying to find the distance between Drew and Caden's house, we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and c squared is our hypotenuse. That's what we're looking for. We can count the other numbers to figure out what they are, so we can plug them into our formula. So from Drew's house to this point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then from Caden's house to this point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we have 8 squared plus 11 squared equals c squared. 8 squared is 64. 11 squared is 121. I always get that confused. Double checking that. Double checking your work, always. Yes, it's 121. Okay, and so that is equal to c squared. So then we have 121 plus 64. That gives us 185. So 185 is equal to c squared. Again, to find out what just c is equal to, you just push the square root button. So 185 square root gives us this big, long number. It's actually not a big number. It's just a long number. Okay, I'm going to stop there because it said we could round to the nearest tenth. This is the tenths place, so we're going to look back behind it. Let me do this in a different color. This is the tenths place. We're going to look behind it. That 0 is not enough to bump that 6 up, so our answer is 13 and 6/10. Does it tell us the distance? Nope, so we'll just put 6/10 units, or just 13 and 6/10, sorry. 13 and 6/10 units, or just 13 and 6/10. Okay? All right, it says the right square pyramid shown below has a side length of 25 centimeters and a height of 28 centimeters. What is the length of x in centimeters? Round to the nearest tenths. Again, this is the same thing we've been doing. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now, this is saying the whole length here is 25. That is not the same thing as this from here to the middle. We would take this 25 and divide it by 2 to find this piece down here. So we know that a is going to be 28 squared. And b, to find that, we would just divide 25 divided by 2. That gives us 12.5 or 12.5. So 12.5 squared equals c squared. So now we do 28 squared in our calculator. 28 times 28 gives us 784. And 12.5 times 12.5 gives us 156 and 25/100ths. And that equals c squared. So we are going to add that to 784. And we get this. So 940 and 25/100ths is equal to c squared. Again, that is not c, okay? To find c, we have to find the square root of this number, which is this long number. So we could keep it going, but this is c, and it asked us to round to the nearest tenth if necessary, which is, let me do it in a different color, which is this number. And if we look behind the 6, that 6 is enough to bump this 6 up to a 7. So our answer would be 30 and 7/10. And we're talking about centimeters here, so it would be in centimeters. 30 and 7/10 centimeters. A cone has a height of 8 2/10 feet and a diameter of 6 feet. What is the volume of the cone in cubic feet? Remember, this is a cone. Okay? And the diameter is the distance all the way across. So, we need to remember our volume. Volume equals pi times radius times the height divided by 3. Okay, so pi is just 3.14. To find our to find our radius, you have to take half of the diameter. So if the whole diameter is 6 feet, then half of that is just 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So our radius is 3. So I'll use the multiplication sign symbol. And then our height of the whole thing is 8.2, or 8 2/10. And then we have to divide all that by 3. So now you can just plug all this into your calculator. 3.14 times 3 times 3 times 8.2. And you get, oh, I forgot to divide by 3. Hello. I'm going to make sure I did that correctly. Times 3 times 3 times 8.2 divided by 3. And that gives you 77 and 244 thousandths. But it asked us to round to the nearest tenths. Okay, so this is our number. That's our answer, but we want to round it to the tenths place. Remember, this is the tenths place. The 2 is in the tenths place. We look behind it. That 4 is not enough to bump that 2 up, so it stays the same. So our answer is 77 and 2/10 feet. And we're talking volume, so it's going to be cubed. Feet cubed. 77 and 2/10 feet cubed. Okay, Morgan and Haley both earn money at part-time jobs. Morgan's earnings, E per hour H, can be described in the equation E equals 9.75 H. So her earnings is $9.75 per hour. So this is Morgan's. Morgan. Okay? Haley's amount of money earned is described in the table below. We want to compare these two functions to answer the question. So how much does Morgan earn per hour? Well, that amount is right in front of the H, which is that 9.75, so $9.75 per hour. We want to know how much Haley earns per hour. So what we need to do here is we need to divide our y by our x's. So find the distance between your y's and then divide that by the amount of change in your x's. So 51.25 minus 30.75 gives us 20 and 55 hundredths. Using decimals, I like to triple check my answers, so I'm going to do that again just to make sure I did it correctly. No, I didn't do it correctly. It'd be 20.50. Now I'm going to have to triple check it. Goodness gracious, that took a while. Okay, sorry. And to get from 3 to 5, we simply add 2. So now we take our 20.50 and we divide it by 2. Okay, and we get 10 1/4. So that's how much she makes per hour, $10.25. So you just find the amount of change in your y's and your amount of change in your x's, and then you just divide your y's by your x's. That's all you do. Who earns more per hour? Well, Morgan earns $9.75. Haley earns $10.25. So Haley earns more. Okay, it says a square is cut in half on the diagonal, creating two equal triangles. So here's our square. Here's our line cut on the diagonal. Here are our two equal triangles. If each triangle has an area, remember area is the space that takes up the inside of that triangle. The area is 24, that's hard to see, 24.5 inches squared. 24.5 inches squared. So each of the areas inside here are 24.5 inches squared individually. So to find out how much area the whole thing has, we will add those two numbers together. So 24.5 plus 24.5, and that equals, I believe it's 49, but we shall check. Yes, it is 49. So that equals 49. But we are not done. It didn't ask us for the area of the square. It asked us for the side length. But remember, when we have a square, your side times your side gives us your area, right? Base times height equals our area. And in a square, both sides are equal. They're the same side length. So side squared equals 49. So now we just need to find what number times itself equals 49. And that is going to be 7, because 7 times 7 gives us 49. So 7 inches is your side length for the square. I need to make myself smaller. There we go. Okay, two linear functions are shown below. Compare each of the functions to answer the questions. Okay, so it wants to know the rate of change. Rate of change is simply our slope. This is another word for slope. Okay, so if we are finding our slope here, find 2 points on your line, and then find the rise over run. Okay, so the rise here is 2, and the run is 1. Remember, we are going down, so our slope is actually going to be negative. So negative 2 divided by 1 gives us negative 2. So the slope or rate of change in function 1 is negative 2 over 1, or simply negative 2. What is the rate of change for function 2? Here we are going to do the thing we did on a couple problems ago, where we are finding the rate of change, or the change in y. To get from 8 to 17, you add 9. And to get from 17 to 26, you add 9. Okay, to get from negative 5 to negative 8, you are subtracting 3. From negative 8 to negative 11, you are again subtracting 3. So we are going to take 9 and we are going to divide it by negative 3. 9 divided by negative 3 gives me negative 3. So your rate of change for function 2, or your slope for function 2, is 9 divided by negative 3, or simply negative 3. Which function has a greater rate of change? Greater just means bigger, right? And these, normally 3 would be bigger than 2, right? But we're talking about negative numbers. So negative 2 is actually higher than negative 3. So your negative 2 is going to be your bigger number. So, it asked me which function. It didn't ask me for the slope. It said which function. So the function is function 1 because it is negative 2. Function 1. Okay, last one. Yay! I like this sky blue color. Okay, so it says determine the number of solutions for each system of linear equations below. When we have the same linear equation, that's going to be an infinite number of solutions because they're the same. So they can have, any number can go in for x, and they will be equal, if that makes sense. I said that completely. That didn't make sense, what I just said. But what I mean is x would be equal to x. So they would be, there's an infinite number of solutions on their line because they create the same line. There we go. Sorry. Okay, when there is just one number that is different, that is no solution. When there is just one thing that is different, meaning just these numbers are different, everything else about it is the same, that would be no solution. And then And then when they are completely different, the linear equations are completely different, that is one solution only. Okay, so I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I miss you guys so much. I hope you guys are staying safe and enjoying your time with your family, and FaceTiming your friends and your teachers, or chatting with them, video chatting with them. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope to see you guys soon. Take care.